Hey, I wanted to share one of my absolute favorite books with you and talk about how it's similar to homeschooling. So before you click away, there's a link in the description which will allow you to come into our closed group, Character First Homeschooling, and it is our precious group, our special group where it's not such a big pool of people. So here is your very personal invitation. We would love to have you on the inside. So after this is over, please come and ask to be let inside. Back when I was 20 something, long time ago, I worked in a toy store and I wasn't a very confident salesperson. But one of the things that I was taught to do was when somebody was purchasing something, see if I could make a connection to a book. And this was back in the time when Graham Base was writing his Animalia and The Water Hole. I'm looking for the copyright date and I don't remember exactly when this was copyright. This was written back in 2001, so it was a long time ago. So at least this copy. This book has a parallel with homeschool. Now, obviously, I'm going to encourage you to go get your own copy. But the premise of this story, it's a counting story where you go through the numbers and you start with this watering hole where the animals are coming to get a drink. And as more and more animals come to the watering hole, what happens? The watering hole gets smaller and smaller and smaller until at the end you end up with a dried up, sad watering hole. So Bekki, what does this have to do with homeschool? When we start homeschooling and our kids are little, we have the opportunity to expose them to ideas in an environment that looks like this plush, lush, amazing atmosphere. Everything's fun. Everything's relevant. They're learning how to say their name. They're learning how to write their name. They're learning how to count and make sense of I too, right? Everything's relevant. Everything's relevant. And the beautiful part about homeschooling on that early side is that you don't have to overcomplicate it. Everything that you do is a learning experience. You're emptying the dishwasher and you can say things like, this is a dinglehopper. Oh, I mean a fork. Or you are mopping the floor and you're talking about, this is the way we sweep the floor, or whatever it is that you do. Everything is refreshing. Everything's fun. Everything is exciting and encouraging. Your kids want to learn. They want to help. They want to be by your side. As this book progresses, this watering hole gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the challenge with homeschool is that the challenge with embracing the beauty of homeschool is that as those amazing, fun, fundamental foundations get mastered, we make the same mistake that many of us have made over the last decades or whatever. We bring our kids to the same water hole. We go back and we do the same things. We teach them how to write their name. So every day until they graduate high school, we have them practice their handwriting. We teach them how to add in a straight line. So every day we get out a paper and we do the math. In our podcast, which you can find on Apple, A Better Way to Homeschool, I talk about the teeter-totter of learning. And it's like in this water hole, at the beginning of homeschool, it's all foundational stuff. It's how to interact as a family, how to help be a part of the family so that you're not just sucking all the resources dry, but you're actually contributing to the family, how to read, how to write, how to do your basic math, how to fall in love with story. That's this basic part of the teeter-totter. But once your kids get those basics down, if you keep them on that side, where it's, let's just keep looking at all the fundamentals. Well, you can stay in that land forever. Here's addition, here's subtraction, here's multiplication, here's algebra, here's geometry, here are theorems, here are all these amazing formulas that do fantastic things. But what if they're not mathematicians? What if they're dancers? What if they're painters? They don't care about the quadratic equation if they're instead practicing to be on point, right? So if we stay on this side of the teeter-totter, the water hole dries up and the kids' joy ends up turning them into, gotta go back. It turns them into tortoises. Slow, lethargic, dried up, eye-rolling tortoises. They don't care. I have 5 sons, only one's a mathematician. So as we dug deep into math things, if we didn't connect to real life, then they were gone. They turned into tortoises. Or worse, they turned into like hyenas where they would eat each other alive during homeschool. Foundations. Once the teeter-totter starts to level out, if you don't dip into the joy of learning, where you start to lean into what the kids really love and give them resources, then the passion dries up. And that's not what we want. We want our kids to be excited learners. We want them to be invested in what it is they're doing and leaning in and digging deeper and finding more. We want them to be excited, so much so that they can't hold back what it is that they're learning because they're bubbling over. They're a bubbling brook. Right? Right? The water hole. Don't make the mistake as your kids get older, as they learn their foundations, don't make the mistake of staying on that side of the teeter-totter where they're just doing the next lesson. They're just doing the next thing. We're doing a lot of talking about this in the future in Character First Homeschooling. We're doing a lot of this deep diving inside of our Homeschooling Olympians group because it's so important that we don't lose our kids or bring them to dried up water holes. All of your kids, I got a bouncy ball. Can you see? Got a bouncy ball. All of your kids are uniquely and wonderfully made. If you try to do exactly what I did with my kids in homeschool, they're going to turn into tortoises because your kids are different than my kids. And if I tried to make my kids sit and do textbook learning from middle school through high school, they would dry up and die like a tortoise at a water hole with no water. Last night, one of my kids was working on a calculus exam, a calculus quiz. He's 17, and it was tough. He came and he showed me 3 pages in this paper, and he's not thriving in this class. And I could hear him huff in the other class. I go, "How you doing?" He goes, "Huh." I go, "You know what? You've learned a lot, haven't you?" He goes, "I don't know." I go, "You've learned that you don't want a lot of calculus in the future, do you?" He's like, "No, I don't." I said, "This experience in not thriving in calculus has shown you things that you love, rowing, painting, sculpting, drawing, sketching, etc. And things that you don't love, calculus, 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 and calculus." I said, "Buddy, from here I can see clearly that it's very likely that either calculus has nothing to do with your future, or you haven't found what it is that you want to do that requires calculus in order for you to succeed. Because I can tell you, either you will not do calculus again for the rest of your life, or you will decide that you have a need for calculus, and that need for calculus will pull you in and cause you to actually learn these things." And he's like, "Huh," from the other room, Because the reality is that no textbook is needed to educate your kids. No curriculum is needed to educate your kids. What you need is to bring them to a full water hole that's filled with life and wonder and mystery and work and relationships and joy when they're little. And then when they start to wander away from that water hole, because they will, they're going to lean towards tennis. They're going to lean towards medicine. They're going to lean towards art, history, math, science, music, whatever. When they start to wander away from that first water hole, don't try to pull them back and do the same thing. Instead, look through their area of passion, like music, and then find a way to look at music directly and bring those other things right to their view. If you have a musician and you're able to do things that are required for music that require a pencil, are there any math type things that you can do for music? Rhyme, not meter and metronomes and keeping time, that's math. Is there writing that has to do with music? Absolutely. As you learn to write the lyrics of songs. Is there history in music? Yeah, there's so much music history. You could spend the rest of your life studying music history. What about science? Is there any science in music? Have you ever looked to see how many moving parts there are inside a piano? It's more than 10. It's more than 100. It's more than 1,000. Look it up. How many moving parts are there in a grand piano? I didn't believe my musician when he told me the first time. I had to go prove him wrong, only to have him prove me right. It's a big number. Is there art that you can do with music? Absolutely. Is there food that you can do with music? Sure, you can shape food to be the shape of instruments or notes or melodies or title. There's so much that you can do. Once the teeter-totter starts to lean and they start to wander away from that initial water hole, follow them and then find things that you can feed them that feed their passion. Now, what if they don't go on to become a musician? It's okay. It's okay. We live in the world of everyone's carrying a supercomputer in their hand. Think about this for a second. When was the last time that you looked up how to write a postulate and theorem for something that you needed to do in real life? The last time that I went to the major grocery store and I spent hundreds of dollars on food, they didn't ask me which came first, the American Revolution or the Gulf War. They didn't ask. The last time I went to have my car tuned, I did not need to answer the questions about what are the first and second laws of thermodynamics. But you know what? I have had to look up how to improve communication, how to better my voice so that I can bring information to people in a clearer way, how to edit an email without sending a typographical error. Yeah, I haven't figured that one out. So if you're on my email list, this is my public apology to all of you. I know I can't edit my own emails. I know, but I'm gray enough and old enough to be confident that you would rather have me be real and human than perfect, because perfect does not exist. Your kids need to fall in love with learning. So once their foundations are set, the way that they fall in love with learning is that you fall in love with what they love in life, and then you feed them stuff that builds up their knowledge base. So important, so important. So anyway, Lessons from the Water Hole, one of my favorite books by Graham Base. You can use this book in so many ways. I had no idea there was a homeschool lesson hidden in this book until I woke up this morning and went, there's a homeschool lesson hidden in Graham Base's book. It's amazing. but it's also a really great book if you're teaching your kids to count, or you're teaching them about water conservation or the properties of water, or animals and things with the continents around the world, or major places around the world. It's fantastic. That's it. That's my big thought for today. So what do I hope for you? I hope that if your kids are on the lower side of the teeter-totter, that you are making learning fun, that you are hugging those kids and loving those kids and splashing in puddles and talking about things like mud and wet and cleanup. I hope that you are having your kids help you fold the laundry, do the dishes, make dinner, etc., even though it takes 12,000 times longer with them by your side. And I hope that while you are doing those things, you have an audiobook playing, a fun one, something amazing and captivating. And I hope that you know to turn it off the moment the story gets really exciting, so that they're begging for more. And I hope that you focus on building relationships with your kids, giving them opportunities to practice the things that you hope that they do, like saying please or thank you, or being the one to pick up things when they fall all over the floor, whatever is important to you. Take that early time to lay the foundation of character and family and foundations for learning. Counting, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, but put 0. Okay, everybody say 0. Okay, my kids play this game. They think this is a funny game. If you looked at this, you lost. That's the game. Seriously, boys, that's the game. And the only way to get out of this is if you quickly like poke through the hole. Okay, I will never understand boys. I just won't understand boys. I pray that when the kids are little, that you lean into those foundations, but that you don't make the mistake of thinking that just because Johnny read at age 2 means that my child needs to read at age 2. Don't take on any benchmarks or any peer pressure of when your kids should do things like reading and writing. All 5 of our kids were delayed readers. It's okay. Guess what? They all read. They all love to read. They all write. They're so filled with story. They've read so much and listened so much to beautiful literature that when they write, they draw you in. They make you cry. They make you laugh. It's amazing. So when your kids are little, just concentrate on those basics. And then I want you to become a spy. Oh, you can even make yourself a secret badge that you hold in your pocket or you keep in your purse. You can be mom, super spy. You're watching for that moment when your child pauses and then leans into something. Oh, I didn't know that. Once you see that, share their excitement. Oh, I didn't know that either. And then without their knowledge, start to gather a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit, of more information about that thing, whatever it is, mushrooms, dinosaurs, platypus, doesn't matter what it is, little bit of information. Go to the library, get some books. That's the best place to start, or Amazon, or your own bookshelf. And then you take the books and you just set them on the windowsill, just like that. And then you ignore them. You don't do anything with them. If they ask, you can say, oh, I was so interested in what you shared that I just saw this book and I thought it was really cool. And then you walk away. You're looking for that little spark of curiosity, that little spark of excitement to turn into a little mini fire. And then you keep adding things to it. More books, more videos. Is there any place around here that we can visit that will give you more information about that thing? A museum, a family member, a store, etc. And as they get older, you do that more and more and more. And then, just like in our homeschooling Olympians, I don't have them right there, you pick a project. Once you've fallen in love with this subject, you pick a project like, hey, let's put on a feast about the whatever it is that you're learning about. And we're going to invite our friends and we're going to have a theme throughout, and we're going to share pictures and foods and facts and fun things that we learned with our family and friends. Or let's make a PowerPoint presentation as a family. We'll pull pictures and information, and we'll figure out what a PowerPoint presentation is together. And then the kids will record their voices and find their pictures and all the things. And you do that as the teeter-totter goes like this. Instead of the watering hole getting smaller and smaller and the kids turning into tortoises, now you've put on your backpack and you've walked away from the childhood part, and you're on this grand expedition, this massive adventure in learning, where you get to watch your kids fall in love with learning. Oh. Don't put curriculum in front of your kids. Oh, you need a little bit of it. You do, especially with math. If you can't remember how to do things like, if you're dividing fractions, how do you do that? Like, or do you just multiply across? No, you find the song. Da-na-na-na-na, da-na. When a problem comes along, you must flip it. Now flip it. Cross, cancel, all this stuff. You find songs, you make it goofy, you make it come alive. So you might need curriculum for math. You might need a master list of what are the types of things that I want my kids to know before they leave home. No, how to replace the toilet paper roll, really high on my list. It's really high. I have not gotten any of my children to do this. Do you have any tips or tricks? Because, oh my gosh, this one drives me crazy. See, you just lost because we were playing that game. You didn't hit it. Oh, that's my ramble. I want you to experience the joy of homeschooling. I want you to watch your kids fall in love with something and then realize that there is a world of wonder out there for you to lean into. You don't need curriculum because you have a supercomputer in your hand. So if you can just picture a bicycle spoke and you put whatever your kids are interested in the middle, whatever that is, hula hoop championship of the world. One of my kids found the game of knockers, Knockers. Look it up. There's an actual like knockers championship. Is fantastic. I can't remember where he found it, probably in a book or something. But you put a subject in the middle. Oh, I remember where it came. Okay, you put the subject in the middle, and then you find things to go with the spokes. Is there a math connection? Is there a book? Of course there's a book. Of course there is. Is there a book that you can read? Is there an audiobook? Is there a documentary? Most likely, people make documentaries about all kinds of stuff. There's definitely a YouTube channel. Do you know that one of the massive YouTube channels is this guy that makes wooden spoons? You heard me right. Wooden spoons. He has thousands and thousands and thousands of views on his YouTube page. And I know this because my husband just finds this to be so relaxing to watch people do things like make wooden spoons. Okay, so you can look to see if there's YouTube videos. You can look to see if there are any tutors or teachers in your network of people. You can look for art projects, food connections, music. There's almost always a song for absolutely everything. And if not, just make it up, get creative. My kids know that I'm pretty much Johnny on the spot with a song with almost any situation. It's amazing. I can't remember what it is I just said, but I can tell you that if my kids do something right now, a song comes pouring out of my head. It's amazing. So you put the thing in the middle, you connect the spokes, and that's it. On the other side of homeschool is life. Without you. It's okay. Not without you, but they'll be on their own. They'll be living. They'll be thriving. And they need the skill of being interested in something and then finding out more. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. They need to know that this information is out there, and that if they chase their area of interest, they chase their area of need, that there are resources out there that will fill their minds with the knowledge and the skills and the information that they need in order to thrive. So, water hole. Water your kids around this nice, safe little hole while they're little. Focus on the foundations. Focus on all those basic things. Character first. Come join our Facebook group. Character is more important than academics for so many reasons. Character first. Have them around that water hole. But then as that teeter-totter trips or starts to go down, and as their interests start to bubble up, get creative. Get creative and embrace this life that you chose. It's amazing to watch your kids flourish. And how do I know? Because I got a whole bucket of kids. And I get the blessing, my husband and I get the blessing of watching our kids flourish. Even though one didn't get potty trained till he was 4.5, because he had major medical issues and was in and out of the hospital a lot. And so we just didn't prioritize it. Our kids are flourishing, even though one of them didn't talk until he was over 4 years old. Oh, he was filled with sound effects, but he didn't talk. All 5 of our kids didn't read when they were young. They just didn't read. Our youngest didn't read till he was 10. 10! Didn't matter. They're still flourishing. We have a historian that is a fantastic machinist. We have 2 kids, one kid that finished his bachelor's degree, and he's a screenwriter and producer. We have a musician that is in school right now to be a worship pastor, and he makes you cry with his music, not because he stinks, but because his music's that beautiful. We actually gave birth to a mathematician and a scientist. He's the kid that when the chapter on bacteria, because I don't do that, when that chapter was over, he was like, oh, don't you hate it when the chapter on things like bacteria is just over? I'm like, no. And then we have an elite athlete that is also an artist, and everything the child touches is just fantastic. And your kids are uniquely and wonderfully made as well, and they're gifted and talented in areas that are different than what my kids are. And if you keep them at the same water hole for their whole academic adventure, then they'll turn into tortoises. And although tortoises are really super cool, that's not really what we envision for our kids, is it? We envision them flourishing and flying and just doing amazing things. And so that's it. Come join us in Character First Homeschooling. I love you all, and I can't wait to hear what you think about all this. Bye.